well recognized. I say Pharmacist Modupe Bakare, one of the directors in the Lagos State Health Service Commission. You are also well recognized. Everybody is very important, so we appreciate your presence and not wanting to belabor the subject matter. Let us all sit back, relax, if possible, grab a cup of popcorn, and we are in for a good time. Thank you so much. Over to Farm Titilayo Nedo and Foluke Akiniroyin, both FPSN, to recognize, to take the next step.
Pharmacist Onedo, kindly unmute your mic.
So sorry, I thought I did before. So good evening, everyone. Good evening, as speakers. So I take the profile of Dr. Solomon Aigbaboa. Dr. Solomon Aigbaboa is a pharmacist who was educated at the University of Benin, where he bagged the Bachelor of Pharmacy in the year 1990. And in the year 1995, he bagged a master's degree in pharmaceutical chemistry, also from the University of Benin. He later obtained an MBA from the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, and a PhD in operations management from the University of Johannesburg, South Africa, where he majored in pharmaceutical supply chain. Pharmacist Solomon Aigbaboa has attended many management courses, both locally and internationally, among which is the management course at the Cranfield University, Belford, United Kingdom. Pharmacist Aigbaboa started his career in 1992 with the University of Benin, where he became lecturer 2 in pharmaceutical chemistry. From 1997, pharmacist Aigbaboa joined the corporate world, and that's where he is till date. He has held many management positions, such as Pioneer Manager, Haulage and Distribution, National Customer Services Manager in MGS Logistics, General Manager and Franchise Operation at Mr. Biggs and UAC Food. He has also worked as a regional support manager in the telecommunication industry. And also, he rose to become the managing director of MDS Logistics Limited. He was once the MD CEO of Livestock Feed PLC, the MD CEO of Flux Logistics Limited. He has served as a non-executive director on the board of CAP Nigeria PLC from 2008 to 2019. Currently, he serves as the MD of Sonedis Nigeria, a supply chain and health management company. He also sits on the board of H&W Rice Limited, Manomi Services Limited, H&W Starch Derivatives Limited, and many other companies. Dr. Solomon Aigbaboa is a fellow of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, and is the first pharmacist to be awarded fellow of the Chartered Institute of Supply Chain Management, Ghana. He's a fellow of the African Center for Supply Chain Management and is a member of Council for Supply Chain Management Professionals in the USA. He regularly facilitates training and courses in the area of his interest, that is operation, logistics, and supply chain management, at the Lagos Business School, a pan-Atlantic university. He also facilitates training and courses at the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria and the African Center for Supply Chain Management. And also, he facilitates training in the Faculty of Postgraduate Diploma in Cold Chain Logistics Program of the Nigerian Institute of Transport Technology. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Solomon Aigbaboa, FPSN.
Thank you.
You are welcome, sir.
Thank you very
welcome,
much.
sir.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
We go to Akiniro.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. I take the profile of Pharmacists Samson Omaka. Pharmacist Samson Omaka graduated from University of Nigeria Nsukka School of Pharmacy with 5 distinctions and bagged a master's in pharmaceutical technology and industrial pharmacy, and has worked directly and indirectly with different pharma giants, including Abbott, Gilead, Cipla, MSN, and so on, as Novartis and Hetero. He is presently He's a thoroughbred pharmacist with over 10 years expertise in pharmacy practice. He is currently a director at Philips Pharmaceuticals, where he oversees pharmaceutical designs, pharmacovigilance, quality management system, pharma regulatory processes, and supply chain. He is the chairman, Wellnext Pharmacy and Wellnext Pharmaceuticals Limited. Pharmacist Samson Omaka is a member of various pharmaceutical groups, including the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, International Pharmaceutical Federation, otherwise known as FIP, the Royal Pharmaceutical Society of Great Britain, and former member of PSN Strategic Innovation, Empowerment, and Entrepreneurship Committee. He has a strong passion for innovation in pharmacy. He is the creator of RX Online Pharmacy
I guess that the network issue from Mr. Akiniro there.
Okay.
So Mrs. Onedo, you can take up the third guest and come back to Samson Omaka later.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman. So I take the profile of Ehime Christopher Eromonsele. Chris Ehime holds a Bachelor of Pharmacy degree from the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University. He holds an MBA from the University of Benin, the cohort member of the Stanford University Business Transformation Program. He is currently engaged in academic research
thousands of
in the
pharmacists
pharmaceutical
across
supply
Nigeria.
chain
The RMC.
I started with Chris Ehime's profile. Sorry for the mix-up. Sorry. So I start that all over again. Ehime Christopher Erumonsele. Chris Ehime holds a Bachelor of Pharmacy degree from the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. He holds an MBA from the University of Benin. He's a cohort member of the Stanford University Business Transformation Program. He's currently engaged in academic research in the pharmaceutical supply chain. He has diverse and extensive experience working in sales and marketing functions across national and multinational companies, cutting across pharmaceutical, fast-moving consumer goods, telecommunication, and banking industries. He started off his career as a sales representative stroke branch manager with Sterling Health and GSK. He later moved on to become head of marketing at Promasidor, makers of cowbell milk. He was once the head of consumer marketing at Globalcom and head of market segment in the retail banking division of Bank PHB, now Keystone Bank. As an accomplished professional, Chris championed the introduction of successful fast-moving consumer goods and telecom products in the Nigeria and West African markets. He's a co-founder of Net Pharmacy and is currently responsible for the finance, supply chain, logistics, and business development program of the company. His firm, Net Pharmacy, is at the forefront of making quality health and beauty products available to our people in different parts of the country and in engaging in health and wellness programs. He has attended and facilitated several business and leadership programs, both in Nigeria and other countries. He is a resource person for several business-related activities and a mentor to several business owners. Chris is a Merit Award winner of the Lagos State branch of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, a Distinguished Community Pharmacist Awardee of the Association of Community Practice of Nigeria, a Fellow of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, and a Fellow of the Nigerian Academy of Pharmacy. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as I welcome Chris Ehime Erumonsele.
You are most welcome, sir.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah, welcome. I take the profile of pharmacist Margaret Oluwayemisi Adedapo. Hello. I don't know why it's tripping up. I take the profile of pharmacist Adedapo Margaret Oluwayemisi. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
We can.
Pharmacist Margaret. All right. Oluwayemisi Adedapo leads the logistics, management, coordinating unit of the Lagos State Ministry of Health, Nigeria. She has over 25 years experience as a pharmacist, which cuts across pharmaceutical care services, academic, community, industrial, and hospital practice, and which has positioned her as a team player coordinating the supply chains of public health programs in the state. Pharmacist Margaret Adedapo is passionate about pharmacovigilance, patient care, and health supply chain management. She has been involved in a number of operational research studies that have been abstracted and presented at a number of international Fora. She's a fellow of the West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacy and a public health specialist. She has also been certified by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Boston, USA, in supply chain fundamentals, dynamics, analytics, design, supply chain technology, and systems. She is also a certified supply chain analyst by the International Supply Chain Education Alliance, otherwise known as ISCEA. She was a member of the case management pillar during the successful Ebola response in Lagos and has led data management sub pillar of the logistics pillar of Emergency Operation Command of the COVID-19 response in Lagos. Pharmacist Margaret Adedapo is a member of the Pharmacists Society of Nigeria, the Association of Hospital Administrative Practice Pharmacists of Nigeria, where she served as at both state and national level. She's a recipient of several distinguished awards, which includes finalists at the 5th Global Health Supply Chain Summit Prize Award, South Africa in 2019. She's also a recipient of the Lagos State Health Merit Award 2018 for the outstanding pharmacist at Lagos State Ministry of Health. She got the Distinguished Service Award of the Association of Hospital and Administrative Pharmacists of Nigeria in 2018, and the George Iketubosun Memorial Prize for the performance in pharmaceutical chemistry in 500 level as B-Pharm examination. Obafemi University, Obafemi Awolowo University Ile-Ife in 1993. Margaret Oluwayemisi Adedapo also serves as the facilitator and mentor to healthcare workers and colleagues. My colleagues and friends, kindly join me in welcoming our first speaker, pharmacist Margaret Oluwayemisi Adedapo, to this noble platform.
Yes, you are welcome, Pharmacist Margaret.
Welcome, ma'am.
Well, let us just go for 1 minute break as we return back in a GV. Thank you.
Products of their engagement. An efficient distribution system relies on adequate data exchange, flexibility, cost-effectiveness, cost-saving and responsive operations. With P2P, a pharmaceutical supply chain coordination platform, your silo systems can connect the mainstream distribution network across the supply chain participants. It is designed in line with National Drug Distribution Guideline of the Federal Ministry of Health, thereby bringing efficiency and real-time information exchange among the players. Manufacturers, importers, distributors, hospitals, community pharmacists and logistic organizations are domiciled on a single platform by removing the bottlenecks, enhancing productivity and taking your products to the target markets. You can give your business the 21st century enhancement now by joining over 1,000 participants already on board. Connecting this industry system for your profitability, kindly visit www.famart.ng. For more inquiries, call us now 090326222336.
Yeah, thank you very much. And let me use this opportunity to welcome everyone again to this May 2023 edition of Point Blank, Lay It Bare. Just like our members of the board have really introduced all our guest speakers and the panelists, I believe strongly the topic at hand is of great interest to every pharmacist practicing in Nigeria. Today, we see drug distribution as one of the pain points that has affected the practice of pharmacy in Nigeria. And oftentimes, we always say it has never been like this in other nations of the world. However, in the 60s, 70s, this is not what we were seeing in terms of drug distribution. And maybe basically because we have many of the companies that were bringing the drugs that time as multinationals. So they have home office regulatory framework that they all have to abide and comply with. But as more companies and the expansion of the business begin to happen in the late 70s, 80s, we began to see pockets of distortion in the supply chain. And that is when we start having the open drug markets taking space and taking stage. And most of the time, most of the products being procured by organization hospitals find their ways to these open markets. And they form a kind of a source that are cheaper comparing to what they normally get from the stores. But as this event was ongoing, as more companies begin to get into the environment and competition become an issue, because these open markets had formed a kind of a network whereby there are clusters of them across the country, their network, and they can easily reach out to each themselves. Most companies find it easy to drop their product in the ODMs, that is open drug markets. And as a result of this, that is when we have this distortion taking place. Until today, it had been a challenge. While we know that there's a global standard, while we know that good pharmaceutical distribution is very key and germane to effective therapeutics, while we know that the integrity of the profession itself is a function of the confidence of the members of the public on the commodity, that is medicines, that are given to the public, I want to say that this also has affected the practice of pharmacists. Today, we have our erudite scholars who will be sharing with us their concepts of effective drug distribution. What are the challenges they have identified in our supply chain in Nigeria over the years? What are the things that have been done that has actually helped that we keep on moving as a profession and having good and efficacious medicines available to the patients? What are the quick fixes that we're going to see taking place? The regulatory agencies, they are not sleeping on their oars, they are doing a lot of work. The NDDG is still a challenge and is a work in progress. And all of them, the NAFDAC, PCN, they are not sleeping on their oars, they are working and they are doing their best. However, we still have a long way to go. So our panelists this evening will be sharing with us their opinion on this system called Nigerian version of drug distribution. And we're also going to look at what are the key opportunities that are there for pharmacists. Because when pharmacists are involved in this drug supply, it means there will be some level of control, some level of, some level of standard being met. And we can all see that it's going to open another new way for pharmacists to engage in that space. So this evening, we'll be welcoming our speakers to speak to us. And we're going to start with the lead speaker this evening, and that is Dr. Solomon Agbaivua, who is going to be painting a picture for us on how effective drug distribution system should look like, the best practices globally. What are the things that we can quickly do in Nigeria to begin to see that system not the way it used to be? At this junction, I want to invite Dr. Solomon to share his views with us and to also show us what are the things that pharmacists can begin to work on to become supply chain experts. So this evening, join me to welcome pharmacist Dr. Solomon Agbaivua to this discussion this evening. You are welcome, sir. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, distinguished pharmacist Victor Ajibade, and I must commend your efforts and the aggressive and passionate role we have been playing in getting, pharmaceutical supply chain management on the forefront of all supply chains in Nigeria, and especially in the area of integration. I just want to confirm, is everybody seeing my screen? Can somebody just confirm? Okay, thank you so much.
Yes,
all right, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the next 25 minutes, I'll be looking at effective drug distribution and the role of the pharmacist in supply chain management. I will skip some things for obvious reasons because of what I consider as the knowledge level of everybody that I have seen or I'm quite familiar with in this forum. But I'll just go through some fundamentals, look at pharma supply chain, and of course, I'll be talking about the transition or what people we preferably call value chain right now. And then what I consider as the key area where we can actually do a lot to improve the effectiveness of pharma supply chain in Nigeria, which I have called collaboration. Of course, I'll pull it all together. Now, I'm not giving to too much definitions and concepts and everything, but I'll just talk through some of these things that I'm showing on the screen. So if we're talking about effective drug distribution, we're looking at what is that method that efficiently and reliably moves our pharma products from the point of origin to the point of the end user, who is the patient. And not only that, ensuring that the right medication reaches the right people in a timely manner. Of course, there are other rights that are added to this angle of effective drug distribution, which is right price, right condition, all of those ones. And of course, it involves, number one, outbound haulage, up-country warehousing, last mile distribution, and there's a concept called EPH. EPH is endpoint handling, and that is what happens at the end of the final user, who is the patient. And that is number one role that our new or the emerging strong force in pharma industry in Nigeria have a lot. They have a lot of role to play in endpoint handler. I'm talking about the clinical pharmacists. I'm sure that pharmacist Foloka is one of them, to be able to counsel drug users and end user, the patient, on how to handle, because it's part of supply chain. At the end of the supply chain is the patient who handles and takes the product. Supply chain management, is all about the planning and movement of all the activities involved in sourcing, procurement, conversion, and all the logistics management activities. But importantly, because that is what differentiates the typical concept of logistics and supply chain management, and I'll just give us a little definition, because sometimes I see some people getting logistics as a terminology confused with supply chain management. What I would say in an illustration or in an illustrative manner is that logistics is the tree, while supply chain is the management and is the forest. Supply chain management, encompasses all the logistics activities, and in addition, it talks about coordination and collaboration among partners. So if you look at logistics as a linear flow of the movement of the product and services from one point to the other, but you can talk about an expanded form of that logistics activity as including the channel players, to now call that system as supply chain management. So in essence, what we're looking at is that supply chain management integrates, demand and supply. Now, what you are looking at is a landscape of supply chain. You have two major segments of supply chain. Number one is the inbound segment, and number two is the outbound segment. Now, if you are looking at, the outbound segment, and you are looking at distribution, you don't have distribution in the inbound. Distribution takes place when the product has arrived the country, if you're an importer, or when you have manufactured the product in the country. So that is where you find, the interface is there between, the out and inbound is on the left side, and of course the outbound that is on the right side. So in that outbound, which is of course all the distribution activities that we have, you have buckets and columns of activities, talking about haulage, which is long distance transport, warehousing and distribution for satellite, depots, and of course you now have redistribution and what we now call sometimes LMD, last mile distribution, and that is what you have there. Now the pharma supply chain in an expanded form looks like this. if you're looking at now expanding all those pockets of activities right from the suppliers, you find that in this column, you find the university and research center collaborating with companies to develop, drug molecules and APIs going to the pharmaceutical companies. And then you start, again, your outbound activities. You have all manners of layers playing. Of course, we have them as physicians, hospital distributors, large drugstores, chains like Chris and Himen's Net Pharmacy, and all of them that are there. At the end of the day, at the end of that chain, you have the patient who takes prescription from physicians. He goes to the clinics to get goods or products. Of course, drugstores, large one. And you have two arrows on both sides. That's because information will flow from one to the other is a double arrow. And of course, product will flow from one direction, preferably that is from the left to the right. Anytime in this design, and I'm looking at this design right now, it's as fundamental as this. Anytime you look at this design in the simplest form, you are looking at basic flows in supply chain management. And there are three basic flows. Number one is product flow. Number two is information flow. And number three is cash flow. And of course, you can tell that from the left to the right is product flow on a normal day. But you can have the reverse flow when you have activation of reverse logistics, product recall, damages, repackaging, and those are the things you find there. On the black side of the double arrow, you have the information flow, because from the manufacturer or supplier to the customer, who is the patient, information can flow. There can also be a feedback. So it goes either way. Now, I have put two arrows here. I'm sure you know that in Nigeria, I think we used to import 70%. As at last time that we had the West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacy International Conference, Dr. Oke, who was the keynote speaker, said we have moved from 70% import dependent for pharma products to 60, which means 40% of our products are now being manufactured. So you have China and India accounting for almost all of that 60 to 70% of what you find imported into the country. Now, I've summarized, because it's a short presentation, what are the challenges of our supply chains in Nigeria. The summary: the first on this side is that we have inefficient maritime, inland transport and distribution infrastructure that will result or normally have as a challenge increased costs, product losses, delivery that are delayed, that is delayed delivery. Then secondly, you have the largely manual operations. Of course, that comes with attendant bottlenecks, hiccups, lack of system integration, poor service delivery, operational inefficiency. And then down here, you have inadequate technology tools to harvest and mine data. And so in Nigeria, we actually have a lot of inefficiencies in our planning, in our execution of strategy, because you have no reliable data. I think Chris Ahime is here. He's doing a PhD in supply chain management. When I was doing my own in pharma supply chain management, he was one of the respondents. But it was difficult to get people like him to cooperate with me. Others just gave me an appointment. They did not respond. I'm talking about major companies in Nigeria. So you have depth of reliable data. So all that Pharmacist Ajibade is doing, and all that P2P, which I will speak to very shortly, is doing, is aggregating in one platform data of all players along the value chain in terms of the different layers of channel players that we have in the pharma, supply chain. And the other one that you have is that we have high incidences of losses due to suboptimal production inventory management, because you don't have, real-time visibility of stock movement across the value chain. If a product leaves your warehouse or your store, if you have a large pharmacy chain like Net, Head Plus, Med Plus, Alpha Pharmacy, probably you have a dispatch rider, you have a vehicle, but it's very unlikely that you will have visibility, except you tell the driver, what do you have? Where are you? Of course, finally, you have suboptimal sales and credit management practices. People fight here and there, distributors to import and importer, and wholesalers with retailers, because the processes are not integrated. There is no streamlined and seamless, handshake of technology between those channel players. So you have the, problem of cash flow and what I call depth all over the place. Now, I'll give us one concept with which I'm going to spend maybe a few minutes to explain where I'm going to right now. And that is the concept of the value chain that was, propounded by a marketing management expert called Michael Porter. Now, in his concept, which is typically what I have illustrated in this cartography, It says that in any entity, to be very productive and to deliver value to the customer, you have two sets of operations. Number one is the core operation, the CP, and number two are the support processes and the department. Now, what I'm saying is that in this setting, what he says that in a typical firm, you have sales, marketing, production, you have supply chain. I have highlighted that, quality assurance, and then all the SP 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are the HR, the regulatory affairs, internally and externally, ICT, CRM, customer relationship management, facility management, finance, and audit. But what I have used this to let us see how this applies to pharma supply chain and how all of us can play our part is what I have on this place. And of course, most distribution will take place in the outbound segment of the value chain. So I have said this is what the pharma outbound distribution value chain in Nigeria looks like. From my experience, from my study, from my interaction with channel players. So if we substitute what you have in the former, value chain category with architecture, with the different segments of the operations in the outbound segment, of course, distribution operation, you find out that the first warehouse of ops, I've called WH ops, is the first warehouse operation. Your finished good warehouse, that is the beginning of the outbound distribution leg of any supply chain in the pharma industry, whether you are private or public. Thereafter, you have long distance transport that we call in Nigeria haulage. And then haulage terminates in smaller or bigger hubs, but satellites. So maybe in Benin, Central Medical Store, in Yobe, all of those places. And in some areas, you have some pharmacies and some, distributors who have semi-large. I'm talking about semi-large up to about 200, 500. You hardly have any player outside Lagos who has, on a private note, more than 500 square meters. And of course, you have distribution. And at the last segment of all of those pharma supply chain activities will be LMD. LMD is last mile distribution, or EPH. EPH is the end product handling. And that is why you find the clinical pharmacists interfacing with the patient, because it is not so much of the traditional supply chain activity that is performing, or he or she performing, but she is counseling that patient on how to handle, because part of supply chain management is inventory management. It doesn't matter whether it is one sachet of an antibiotic or an analgesic that he has, that patient needs to handle that product. It is when the handling protocol is complied with that, therapeutic outcome can be expected to be positive. Now, what I sit down at the support department, and in all of this, whether in the core processes, pharmacies are required, pharmacies can, and pharmacies should begin to get involved in this core operation, the CPs. If you look at the NGOs, before now, they didn't have a pharmacist until about 15 years ago, the GSIs of this world, the global funds of this world began to now employ pharmacists, the USAIDs of this world. And so even in the core operations of warehousing, haulage, distribution, pharmacists will need to be there, because we know what we do and why we do what we do. Some of the practitioners who get their rates, supply chain management, and they make money off what is supposed to be our terrain. Now, for us, I have highlighted what I consider as critical enablers as a support system, the SP processes. Now, the SP1, I have left it blank. It can be any system that supports all of these pharma outbound activities. The first one I have said ICT. The second one, I repeated it again because I'm going to tell you why I have repeated ICT twice. The third one is CRM. Then the fourth one, I have said extended supply chain operations. There is a concept in supply chain management that is called extended. For instance, the concept of VMI, which is vendor managed inventory, is a subset of the concept called supply and extended supply chain, which means if I go to your operations, whether you are a government subsidiary or whether you're a private sector, you have just 100 square meters, but you can't practice GIT because this is not Japan, just in time. So what you do is to have an alliance with somebody who has a warehouse, an importer who does the import of the raw material. So far, he's guaranteed of the offtake of that product that he has imported. For instance, I'm right now dealing with an Indian company that used to import APIs, paracetamol into the country. They just took part of my warehouse recently. What is their plan? The plan is that they want to import in bulk and put near where the customer, the end users of the paracetamol APIs are, so that at the end of the day, when they need, they are sure that they don't need to open an LC and begin to import and take about 3-4 months before the products can come from India. So who should be involved in SEO is the pharmacist. And then, of course, we have all manners of SOPs and then the quality check. So for me, I think all of these, so many activities, shouldn't be left to those who read single honors in the university. We should get them. In addition to the knowledge that we have, and I'm happy that there are a lot of people, whether in the public sector, like Dr. Kafo, and all the private sector, and of course we heard Dr. Pharmacists, who is coming on Margaret. People are getting more and more enlightened, and I think it's a clarion call. It is not traditional, but it is something that we need to deliver value in our industry, which means let everybody, whether you are certificated, that is, you have a formal certificate, or you just read and get yourself acquainted with what happens in the supply chain world. For us as pharmacists, this is a critical role if we must have efficiencies built into what we have. Now, I'll come back to these fundamentals of this flow. And what I've said in the next slide is that what we need very critically among all of us as channel players, from the importers to the from the importers to the distributors to the wholesalers to the retailers in the private sector, from even the central medical stores, you know, with the whip, that is the warehouse in the bus in Oshodi, in Abuja, and all the channel players, is that we must collaborate. And that collaboration is not a matter of handshake or doing emails. It must be a digital transformation of the flows that I already told us earlier. I'll go back again. Look at these flows. They are product flows, they are information flow, they are cash flows. Those are the things that we need to have before we can have effectiveness of the first one, physical distribution. And so I'm saying that it has to be technology-enabled information management, because that one will give value chain visibility across the chain. The manufacturer should be able to see throughout. I want to give us an example. There's a company called Zara. Zara is a garment industry. Of course, it's from in Europe. If you buy a garment, if you buy anything in Zara shop, the manufacturer, it's a shop. They have all their retail outlets, whether it is in Johannesburg, whether it is in London. The manufacturer of that item receives an alert, which means there is an integration of what has been taken off the front end of that supply chain, which is the sales outlet. And so what has happened is that the factory that produces that garment already knows that there is an ordering that has been made automatically, no manual interface. And so it can be done. And that is why P2P comes in. Because right now, Pharmacists Ajibade told us about 1,000. I think just like Facebook that all of us migrated to, we should all migrate to P2P, because it gives us a platform to get all systems, to get every network integrated in the pharma world. Because what it guarantees us is that there is auto replenishment system, there is payment system. So you have three great things that we can get when we have all the channel players integrated. It does not matter what system you have. Once we have your API, what they call the access point interface in IT, there are ways that they can integrate your system with systems like API. So it's like a middleman or a hub for all the players. And so those are the systems that countries around the world use. So if, for instance, there is a drug in Europe, in London or Ireland, where it has been manufactured, where it went to, who has it, who took it as a final patient, there is a database that they can log on to, because the systems are integrated. They will know who took it, the pharmacist or the pharmacy shop, who dispenses, the patient who took that drug. Let me ask us a question. We are all Nigerians, I assume so. If I take a tablet of paracetamol here, or maybe Panadol by, I'm not quoting any brand, where I am in Lagos, is it possible for NAFDAC or the government to know how that product went and trace it down to my house? Very unlikely. And so those are things that, as we walk through the fiscal system, we must have a system of transforming the traditional flows that we have always experienced. Before now, we used to go to the bank and wait. You will write a check. You will wait. They'll give you tally. You hold on for so many hours sometimes. There has been a digital transformation. You don't need to be at the bank. I can do transaction in Europe. I'm sitting down here. I can do all manners of transfer. You can transfer to me. It's an auto system integration. And if you're going to transfer from maybe Access Bank to Zenith Bank, what you do, they give you account number. Sometimes you don't even know the full names. Maybe just Solomon Aigbavoa that you know as my name. If I give you my account number as asset, you type it into your system that you're using to transfer in Zenith. It gives you my full names. And so the system in the banking system and the system in the banking sector in Nigeria, they have gone ahead of us because all the players have integrated. There's a central database that they have all logged onto. We can replicate same system. Payment system is easy. Before now, you write a check. They'll tell you it is 3 days within Lagos. Outside Lagos, 1 week before it can clear, because there's a central clearing system. Now, all of that is passed. So we can do that. Now, what I will tell us is that in this system, in P2P is product to pharmacy. There are key features that I have just explained, similar to the digital transformation I talked about. There has to be an ordering system. It will reduce our OS, out of stock, or hard to find pharmaceutical. And I tell you something, it gave me heartache when I found one of my clients losing 40 million naira because the product expired. Now, in a system, in an ecosystem like this, it is possible for a pharmacist in Gobe who needs that product, when he logs onto a database that he knows that this product is in Lagos and it's near expiring, that the man will just say, please, can you send it to me even as discounted? I prefer to sell a net expiring drug at 50% than to just say I have lost everything. Those products sat in Lagos and some parts of West, and it didn't have anywhere to be sold. So those are the things I will find. So there are going to be national visibility for all of those players, wholesaler, distributors, and of course you have retailers. So it's a platform for all of these benefits, because what we are doing right now is that we have standalone, and sometimes we do offline on real time. That is why if you want to do transaction in your banking sector, in your banking app, if they are offline, you won't get, to get through to the other side, because one is online, one is offline. But it's so easy right now to be able to get online with your small data. You just get, into the system. So it's very critical. In conclusion for me, because I have spent, by my watch, I have spent 23 minutes. So I have to stop because I was given 25 minutes. In conclusion, I've said that things have changed. Things are changing and things will change. So I'm calling on all of us. All of us mean it doesn't matter where you play in the industry. In the pharma world, we need to innovatively collaborate so that we can change the status quo and get the flows, cash, products, information, real time, on time, and very seamless, and of course, integrated among us. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you. Can we just give Dr. Solomon Aigbavoa some round of applause? Just let us clap for him. This is a wonderful presentation, and I can say he has enumerated some points that is responsible for what we are seeing right now. I mean, he has spoken copiously on inefficient delivery system. He made us to see that that is a major challenge. The manual operations, which obviously makes everyone to just behave as an island, and the poor reverse distribution, inadequate data. I mean, there's no technology to make people to work hand in hand and to speed up time. And the final result is that it makes our sales very bad, and our cash flow, which is the main essence of business, challenged. We want to appreciate you, Dr. Solomon. Now, the stage has been set, and we want to now relate to our practice environment. In community pharmacies, in community pharmacy practice, how is it like? What Dr. Solomon has painted, how can we see, or what are the challenges that are out there in the community? And what are those things that we can actually quickly work on so that we can begin to see a new system taking place in our distribution? Dr. Solomon has made us to see the reason why we are seeing what we are seeing. We are seeing those things because people are just struggling to survive. So I'm going to call on the pharmacist, Chris Ehime. So paint the picture to us. How is it like in the community setting? And how do you relate with your upliner, that is your supplier, and you to your patients? Because from what he has spoken now, we have a lot of things connected together for you to deliver effectively to that patient. Over to you, Pharmacist Chris Ehime.
Okay, thank you very much, and I'm quite happy to be here. I'm just going to share with you some of the, Solomon did mention that I'm doing a program. I'm just going to share with you some of the findings of my research that I'm currently doing. It's a 4-year program, but we're still midway. And in the course of that research, because basically what we're trying to do is to find out how community pharmacies can coordinate their supply chain with their upline, the wholesalers. So my discussion here will be focused on the wholesaler-retailer interface. I won't be talking too much about the manufacturers because that is not my area of study. And again, because I play in the community space, so my focus will be on the community and the wholesaler interface. So in the course of this research, I've interviewed 33 key players in the pharmaceutical supply chain, and this consists of wholesalers and distributors, retailers, community pharmacists. I've also talked to regulators. Incidentally, Dr. Okafor is here. I was one of the person I talked to. Solomon himself, I also talked to him in terms of logistics, and I also talked to IT providers. Now, generally, this group of people ask them, what is your impression of the pharmaceutical supply chain? And these are some of the words they use, that the pharmaceutical supply chain in Nigeria is broken, is chaotic, is unstructured, poorly defined, it has no form, lack of control, and it's erratic, among other words which they have used. And then we said, okay, what are those issues that we can see in the pharmaceutical supply chain? Again, the feedback from this group of people is that there's blurred line between retailers and wholesalers. Sometimes you see retailers doing the work of wholesalers and wholesalers doing the work of retailers. And that should not be so. There should be a clear line of distinction. Okay, although there's the National Drug Distribution Guidelines, but it's quite surprising to see that a lot of the pharmacists were interviewed, they've heard of it, but they really don't know the nitty-gritty of the National Drug Distribution Guidelines. And so some say, well, I've heard of it, but I don't know whether it's operational or not. Some even said, I have never heard of National Drug Distribution Guidelines. So it's quite frustrating to hear that, especially when you want to put some structure to the pharmaceutical supply chain, which PCN is pursuing. So there's also the issue of product unavailability, stockouts, which are faced by community pharmacists. And this became worse during and after COVID. We are still in that situation right now. Product availability is a big issue. There are fluctuating exchange rates, and this is affecting supplies. I mean, exchange rate have moved from, I don't know, maybe 150 now to 750. So importing drugs, especially for those wholesalers that are bringing drugs, it's been a challenge. We are currently facing a lot of human resource shortages. If you play in the retail space, if you play in the wholesale space, it's likely you're going to face human resource shortages. Again, in the distribution arm, there are multiple wholesalers. After the last count, we have 1,300. That's 1,300 wholesalers in different parts of the country. And there's this feeling that this number is too large, most especially when you realize that these wholesalers have poor capacity, poor funding. It's very unlikely that you go to a particular wholesaler and you're able to fulfill more than 20 to 30% of your requirement at any point in time. So that's a big problem. Now, one of the issues also then identified in the pharmaceutical supply chain between the wholesaler and the retailer is the issue of debt. It's a big one. Debt is frustrating efforts to streamline that supply chain. And again, which Solomon have talked about, there's lack of technology. I think it looks like pharmacists are very advanced to adoption of technology. So a lot of the transactions that happen in pharmaceutical supply chain is manual, and a lot of things just don't work. So because of this manual, there's no what we call supply chain visibility. And most importantly, there's what we call price volatility. Again, you tie this one back to the fluctuating exchange rates. And of course, that make price to skip every day. But one of the things that is complained seriously about the retailer is that wholesalers are the first people to know when there's a price change. But that information hardly ever get to the retailers. Retailers only know when there's a price change when they go for replenishment. And so there must be a mechanism for price alert. We'll talk about this later if I have the time. But also, most importantly, there's lack of uniformity. This is one of the things affecting pharmaceutical supply chain. There's lack of uniformity in product identification. The way I describe my product, my pharmacy is different from the way under community pharmacy would describe it. It's also different from the way a wholesaler would describe that product. And so it's difficult one product might have different identification in different locations. This is because some products, from our last count, about 30 to 40% of the products that are sold don't have barcodes. There are no standard naming system. Some don't have QR codes. and so it's difficult to trace products along the pharmaceutical supply chain. Of course, they also mentioned the issues of open drug markets and the issue of counterfeit medicines, and the issue of political influence and poor implementation plans, no political will to implement some of the policies and regulations put forward by NAFDAC and PSN. I also talk of weak regulations. So these are some of the issues that were identified by wholesalers and retailers, the logistics company, the IT providers, when we interviewed them and spoke about the issues in the wholesaler and retailer interface. But specifically for the wholesaler-retailer interaction, the complaint coming from that angle is that there is poor and delayed response time. You send an order to your retailer or to your wholesaler, a retailer sends an order, an LPO to a wholesaler, probably take like 48 hours, 72 hours to even get a response, to know what's available, what is not available. There's poor stock visibility. Sometimes you don't even know what the wholesaler has. And inaccurate stock holding. Some wholesalers have gone to the extent of having what they call an app for you to order. You go to the app, you see the wholesaler have a stock of Panadol of 20 items, but physically they have 0 because there's inaccurate stock holding. And so what happens, because of the poor fulfillment rate, no wholesaler can satisfy more than 20 to 30% of what you want at a particular point in time. So retailers now have to jump from one wholesaler to another one. In fact, somebody described it as purchasing tourism. Anytime you want to he wants stock to stock up his shop, he has to do some form of purchasing tourism. By hopping from one wholesaler to another one, that is time wasting. It's a huge cost, and it's one of the reasons why the supply chain is not working well. They also talk about the fact that there's significant price variations between wholesalers. Between two wholesalers, the price variation will be as much as 1,000, and you keep wondering why is that happening? Again, that's some of the complaints. Poor credit terms. Again, the credit terms is a function of the fact that the wholesaler himself is not well funded. It's carried very narrow assortment of medicines, and the retailer, on the other hand, want credit facilities. So if you don't have so much stock, if you have poor funding, you cannot extend credit facilities. That is one of the reasons why the pharmaceutical supply chain looks a bit broken. And the wholesalers do little or no deliveries. You cannot have a structured, a functional pharmaceutical supply chain where delivering is a key issue and where wholesalers don't do deliveries. And so we now came back and say, okay, if we were to coordinate the supply chain between wholesalers and retailers, what are those things that need to be put in place to make sure that the pharmaceutical supply chain works, to make sure that you know where the medicines are, you know where to get it, you get it at the right price, it gets to your store in good time, and you're able to give to your patient to meet their health needs. Now, one of the issues that came up, which Solomon also talked about, the issue of technology. I will talk about technology a little bit in more detail, but technology is very, very key. Right now, a lot of us are using different technology. Store app, QuickBook, SAP, IVEN, there's no uniformity. And some of these technology, don't speak to one another. We must come to a point, which I will mention shortly, that we are able to have some technology that speak to one another. Wholesalers and retailers want some form of end-to-end integration, interactive in real time, right? So there should be stock visibility. I should know where items are. I should know where to get it. There should be a time frame for when this stock will be delivered to the retailer. All those kind of things. But again, I'll talk briefly about technology as we move ahead. Now, this is the way the retailer describes it. He wants a situation where he's sitting in his office, press the button, and that's all he needs to do. Then it's now left for the wholesalers to pack, to deliver, and then, of course, payment is done. So we're looking forward towards a computer-generated ordering system, which is also what Solomon talked about just now. Also, we need to have some payment and credit terms well defined, and people must honor financial commitments. If it's a 30 days, a 40-day credit, that must be honored. Right now, that is not being honored. There's a lot of debt in the pharmaceutical supply chain between the wholesalers and the retailer. And if we have to have a functioning pharmaceutical supply chain, that must be looked into seriously. Now, we need mega wholesalers with capacity. all you need to do in Nigeria currently to be a wholesaler is to have a 70 square meter space. And nobody bothers about whether you have the funds or you don't have the funds. That doesn't work. In advanced countries, for example, in the US, there are 3 major wholesalers that sell to everybody. And this country, and between the 3 of them, they are responsible for about 90% of the drugs that are distributed in the US. In the UK, there are major 5. And even in Europe, there are no more than 5 or 6. But in our country today, we have about 1,300, 1,300. And new licenses are being given out every year. How can you structure the pharmaceutical supply chain? How can you bring some structure and to the supply chain if what we are doing to keep increasing the amount of wholesalers in the supply chain? That's probably one of the reasons why the pharmaceutical supply chain remain unstructured. Yes, we know that at the community level, we are not saturated. I mean, as the last count, the Pharmacists Council is saying we have less than 5,000 registered retail pharmacies. Of course, there are a lot of patent medicines, but there are still room for the community pharmacies to grow. But at the wholesale level, instead of increasing the number of wholesalers, what we should have are people that have the capacity, the likes of Asene Laboret, the likes of WWCV. Those are the some of the points coming out from this research. Most importantly, also, we have to have a delivery system. The wholesalers must have a delivery system to be able to deliver. If they don't have a delivery system, but they must work with third-party logistics, where it's Solomon play, to make those deliveries happen. There has to be contract agreements. So if the wholesaler and the retailers want to have a functional supply chain, they have to have contract agreement that spells out everything, how they interact with one another. Most importantly, product availability. Right now, the supply chain is, I don't know how to describe it, but if you play in the retail space, you struggle with product unavailability, either due to scarce of forex or all kinds of things, either logistics or importation headache. But right now, you struggle with a lot of things. So you cannot have a functional supply chain if there are no products. And one of the things that's also helped into the wholesalers and the retailers to have a coordinated supply chain, joint forecasting, right? Okay, I'm a retailer. I think in the whole of this year, I'm going to sell 20,000 units of Panadol. Can I pass that to my wholesaler for me to forecast? That has to be done for us to have a structured pharmaceutical supply chain, especially between the wholesalers and the retailers. They also talk about the issue of trust, trust, relationship, and integrity. This is very key. Some wholesalers say they have suffered, and you give credit to some retailers, they take the money, sell the products at Japa, and go away with the money. They don't even find them anymore. Again, you cannot run a supply chain if trust and integrity is not there. Also, goods return policy, reverse logistics, product expirations, pricing transparency, stock visibility. These are things that we need to put in place if we have to have a very functional pharmaceutical supply chain. So let me try and round up to say, to have an effective pharmaceutical supply chain at the wholesaler community pharmacy level, 5 things are very, very important. The first one, there must be a common technology using similar product database. I did mention earlier that we all use different technology. We all use different database. The way I describe amyloidopathy in my system, the way another pharmacy would describe amyloidopathy is the way the wholesale is different from the way the supplier, the wholesaler would describe it. Now, for computers to speak to one another, but there must be a common language. That common language will have been either name description or barcodes. But we have also seen that currently in our country, about 30 to 40% of the medicine we sell don't have barcodes. And so people describe them the way they like. And so there's no common database. When I was discussing with officials of NADA, they talk about the fact that now doing the GS1 track and trace, right? That try to put some barcodes or QR codes in some products, and they trace it down from the manufacturer down to the consumer. That experiment is going on. We hope that if it becomes successful, then it can make it mandatory that for any product coming to Nigerian market space must have means of identification, must have a common language that everybody will use. But also, most importantly, retailers and wholesalers must, as much as possible, use a common database of products. If we don't use a common database for products, structuring our pharmaceutical supply chain is going to come with a lot of issues. That is for sure. mega wholesalers with which I mentioned with capacity. What retailers ideally want is one-stop wholesalers. I send my order for 400 items, 500 items, at least from one wholesaler, I should get about 80 to 90% of what I want. Currently, what we are getting is between 20 and 30. And so you have to move from one wholesaler to another wholesaler to another wholesaler. So to fulfill a simple order of about 400 items, you probably have to patronize about 5 to 6 different wholesalers over several days. This is time wasting. It's not cost effective. It will always lead to product unavailability. We also want a situation where we can have a well-defined credit and payment terms, contractual agreements, and this must be honored. If you supply goods and you say 30 days, it's 40 days, people must pay up. Don't take wholesalers' money and run away with them. To also have a situation where we have good, the fourth point is that goods return policy and delivery and dealing with expirations. Right now, if retailers buy stock from wholesalers, it's like final say. That you've bought it, that's it. If it's expired, don't bring it back to me. When we interact with some of the wholesalers, they say that's the same situation they are facing with the manufacturers. So everything is final sale. You cannot have final say in a pharmaceutical supply chain. One of the reasons why Amazon today is top in terms of supply chain is their return policy. You are buying things from Amazon because you are fully confident if that anything is wrong, you can return that product as long as you return it within the specified time. But our pharmaceutical supply chain right now in the country, that is not so. It's more like final sale. And when products expire, it expires. Not even that, dealing with expired products at the retail pharmacy end is a big issue. Our premises are filled up with products that have expired. How to dispose them is even an issue. So these are issues in the supply chain which we need to tackle. And most importantly, deliveries. Retailers have said they are willing to split cost of delivery with wholesalers if need be. All they want to do is sit in their office, send an order, then the products are delivered to them. If that involves them paying some money for the delivery, they are willing to take that rather than they're running all over the whole place, going to pick the goods or waiting for when the wholesaler is going to send it dispatch to their area, which sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And so these are the 5 things that we need to put together to have a functional supply chain, pharmaceutical supply chain between wholesalers and retail pharmacies in our country. Now, this research I've said that is ongoing, but we are looking for a way to be able to implement this. And good enough, P2P is already trying to play in this space. So, but there are still other things we need to add to make it more functional. Especially in the area of technology and electronic data interchange, barcoding and all that, because we must have a common language which the computer uses speaking to one another. So this is what we have seen so far at the retail and the wholesale level in terms of suppliers, in terms of the wholesaler interaction, in terms of how we can manage the supply chain. Again, like I said, it's broken. This is just what we've seen, but how we're able to implement some of these things we have seen is the next stage of this research, which we need to carry out. In terms of pharmacists' role in all this, I mean, Solomon has mentioned it. Pharmacists, at any touch point, pharmacists need to be present because your articles of trade is your medicine. I mean, I've always said that in retail business or the wholesale business, 2 things matter: your cash and your stock. And so pharmacists have to position themselves in those different areas in order for them to be able to satisfy that patient request for medicines. So this is where we are. Good enough, Dr. Amaka is also here in terms of training that pharmacists can get to have an improved knowledge on supply chain. There's the supply chain expert pool. She can give information on that. There's also the supply chains training certificates. She can also give a lot of information on that. But I encourage pharmacists to do some of those courses, to get involved in some of those courses, because if they do that, they're able to analyze their businesses, are able to see all those difficult touch points in our business. How do we handle them? So that's my presentation at this point in time. I'll wait for the next set of questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Let us send a round of applause to Pharmacist Ehime. Thank you so much and so much.
Thank you, Pharma.
Basically, he has painted a very beautiful picture of the challenges that are faced at the community level. And basically, it talks about access to products. And he has also made it the baseline technology as a driving force, which will help a seamless interaction between the upliner and the downliner, which is the retail pharmacist. At this juncture, I'd like to go to pharmacist Samson or Mata. He's going to be talking to us the relationship between the manufacturer, the importer, and the wholesaler, because what are the challenges that they have identified in that link, and what are the solutions they believe will help us to achieve a quick win. So over to you, Pharmacist Samson. In just 10 minutes, kindly paint your picture so that we'll give room for people to be able to ask their questions, and we'll be within time. Thank you very much, Pharmacist Samson. You are welcome on board.
Thank you, everyone. I'm so happy to be in your midst today. Our two speakers have actually spoken well. I will not want to repeat most of those things they've mentioned. But one thing I want to mention right here is that let everyone know that the main objective of effective drug distribution is to ensure that the end user, which is a patient, gets quality medication. While the main goal of supply chain is to deliver value to the patient. Now, when we mean effective drug distribution, now, which sometimes the term GDP is used, it tends to ensure, and it tends to ensure that the quality of medicines are maintained throughout the supply chain. As we all know that the pharmacy profession is a highly regulatory profession. Now, we have a lot of best practices in the regulation of pharmaceutical practice. We have good laboratory practice, we have good clinical practice, we have good manufacturing practice, we have good distribution practice, and good pharmacovigilance practice. You know, the main aim, the main subject today is going to be delving more with good distribution practice. How do we as pharmacists ensure good distribution? Now, the various aspects, or every aspect in the supply chain is very, very important in the sense that the pharmacists at every point need to key in, be it from research to preclinical studies. The pharmacists need to key into this aspect through the good laboratory practice. Even during the clinical trials, the pharmacists need to get involved through the good clinical practice. Now, even at the point of manufacturing, recently we have the current good manufacturing practice. You know, the pharmacists have to be at the forefront of this. You know, normally in the Nigerian settings, we have the production pharmacists, you know, monitoring every stages of production and every aspect of it. But one thing I've observed is that across various pharmaceutical sectors, we do most of those things, but we are lacking in the area of documentation. And we know that there's this saying that goes that when things are documented, we are not doing anything. So once we are not documenting most of these things, then it is not done. Then even up to the stage of distribution, up till it gets to the end user, which is the patient, we as pharmacists also have a responsibility to ensure the safety of this medicine through good pharmacovigilance practice and the rest of them. So the good distribution practice aims at ensuring that the product that is, you know, produced by the manufacturer, that the quality of that product is maintained throughout the supply chain. It's maintained from the importer straight to the distributor, straight to the retailer, and the rest of them in the supply chain. So that is what the good distribution practice is all about. And across the supply chain, there are a lot of stakeholders, be it those at customs, especially when we are importing, the regulators are there. I don't want to delve too deep because of my short time, but we need to take note of some main components. We need to get the right goods at the right quantity, at the right condition, to the right place, at the right time, at the right cost. We need to take note of these things in ensuring that the quality of medicines are maintained throughout the whole system. If I should ask us in the group, how many of us have a quality management system? Most of us don't even know what a quality manual looks like. And a lot of us are losing out in business in the sense that when we have some of these global partners coming to us, they want to bring business. Some of them want to carry an audit of your plant or audit of your facility. The first thing most of them will ask you, do you have a quality manual? Do you have a standard operating procedure? Most of us, we know them, we do them, but we don't have them written down. We need to change the way we do things so that, because we are pharmacists, although at the same time we are business people, but as pharmacists, we need to ensure that we keep to standard just as it is obtained in different, part of the, country, like those in the UK, US, they take very cognizant of these things. Like the quality management system is a document that gives you a summary of all your quality proceedings. And the policy is just like a statement, giving you the summary of the quality statement of your company. Those documents are very, very important. A lot of procedures we carry out in the course of our supply chain, like procedures for maybe procurement of goods, procedures for the tackling expiration of products, all those procedures, we just have them maybe in our heart or in our mind. Most of us don't actually document some of them. We need to have a lot of SOPs, whatever procedures we are doing in our pharmaceutical premise, be it retail. There's nothing stopping a retail pharmacy from having SOPs. There's nothing stopping a retail pharmacy from having quality policy. Be it any sector, distribution, you should have your procedures. Recently, NAFDAC got the certification they got. If not that they set their systems and they change a lot of things to be able to get most of those things right, they would have gotten the certification. Most of these things, we need to get these things right so as to, do our possible roles as pharmacists. As pharmacists too, we also need to involve in a lot of things. I have a document called the business continuity plan. The risk, what are the risks associated with your premises? Those things are very, very important when we're talking about a role of pharmacists. Now, without revolving or repeating what my colleague have said in all these aspects of supply chain, and I'll just give a summary note on the quality assurance that is obtainable that a pharmacist can, take note of at the cost of various levels of our practices. Now, while procuring medicine, we should ensure that the medicines we keep in our warehouse, be it is an online store or whatever store we have, we should ensure that those medicines are licensed or they are registered by the regulatory authority. We should also ensure that we have the correct storage condition. A lot of products are meant to be stored between 2 to 8 degrees. Do we store them properly? As pharmacists, we need to maintain the integrity of this product, because if they're exposed to temperature that is high for a certain time, most of these vaccines are proteins. They could be denatured, that could affect the quality of the products. And when the quality of the products is affected, then the whole distribution network supply chain is collapsed. Then we are not rendering value to the patient or rendering quality product to the patient. So we should ensure that we store products at the right temperature, products that are kept in our premises within the ambient temperature. Are they stored within below 30 degrees Celsius? There are also some special products that are stored between -15 to -25 degrees Celsius. We should also ensure that there is no direct contact with the floor or with the wall. Our product should not have direct contact. It's good when we're storing our product, we can put it on the pallets. We can put them on a pallet so that they don't have direct contact with the wall. We should comply with regulatory requirements, buy product from licensed companies, and also distribute to licensed customers and institutions. We should maintain appropriate record of every transaction, be it financial transaction, be it recording of the cold chain temperature and everything. We should maintain accurate record. The aim of GDP is centered around the patient so that the patient gets the best drugs just as it left the manufacturer's premises. We should protect patients against receiving unsafe, ineffective, and poor quality medicines. We should avoid contamination by other products. We should avoid fraud or diversion of stocks. We should use good inventory softwares to manage our supply chain system. Yeah, a lot of softwares we use these days, like that could help you even monitor recalls, monitor incomings, outgoing, even track the time in which an order is received by a customer, and until the customer gets the product. It helps you to track the time to see, are you really satisfying your customer? Do you deliver your product at the right time, at the right quantity? Are they satisfied with your service? You know, we should also avoid expiries of products through using of various methods like FIFO, FIFO method, and rest of them. First expiry, first out, first in, first out. You know, those methods are key. As pharmacists, we need to be at the forefront of this so that we will maintain quality. Now, another aspect that most of us are lacking in, we should be trained. And apart from training ourselves or training the trainer, we should also train our staffs, you know, in all the process of supply chain, be it handling of various maybe equipment, handling of various procedures or whatever. We should train our staff, because if we don't train them, we should not blame them. You know, we should design a quality management system. We should also have a pharmacovigilance quality management system. We should have standard operating procedure that guides us in every of our activities so that we can satisfy the customer in a very good way. You know, do we take risk or laws into our hands? We should have insurance, a lot of insurance, buy into some insurance policy. Should anything happen at your warehouse or thereabouts, we should have a form of business continuity plan. Should the cold chain or should your warehouse get burnt, what measure do you have in place to help protect some of these things? So as pharmacists, we need to be at the core center of every point of our supply chain so that we will not be losing on opportunities. You know, what stops you from even trying to get an ISO certification? You know, most of these international firms, when they come to you, they ask, oh, is your firm, are you ISO certified? You having that alone is giving a lot of leverage over a lot of competitors. So I'm not going to delve too deep into what my colleague has said, but we should just take note of these things very well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pharmacist Samson Omata. Can we just send in a round of claps? This is a wonderful one, and he has spoken copiously on good distribution practice. And from his own perspective as a manufacturer, I believe that is his own challenge. He wants his products to leave his premises with an integrity that the patient will have it the same way. And I think there's nothing more than that for any manufacturer, because you are sure you are producing a very good product, but what are those challenges that will make that product ineffective is much more concerned in that area. And that has brought us to several things that we need to know as handlers of medicines. And he has spoken about pharmacists being able to do all of this and do them very well. Thank you very much, Mr. Sampson. And we're going to the last panelist now. That is the pharmacist Margaret Yemisi Adedapo. She's going to be speaking to us from the perspective of drug access. That is, how is it like in that space? What are the challenges that she has discovered, and how can those problems be solved? So I'm going to be welcoming pharmacist Margaret Oluyemisi Adedapo now to just take the floor for another 10 minutes, because the time is really fast spent. So that in 10 minutes, kindly just let us know the opinion, and we can be sure that this engagement would have met its target. Thank you very much, Mr. Oluyemisi. You are welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here. Very excited to be part of this panel discussion. And if you permit me, I'm going to share my screen. I am going to speak to some slides, so to make it very interactive. Please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
All right, thank you. So I'll be speaking to the slides. So basically, I'm going to run through very quickly in 10 minutes as I've been given. The outline is looking at the pharmacists of the 21st century. looking at supply chain management and logistics management, the logistics cycle, the supply chain integration journey, national policy documents related to supply chain management, last mile distribution of medicines and health commodities in the state, last mile distribution monitoring, post-gap distribution analysis, LMIS, some of our achievements and supply chain projects, and our involvement in the COVID-19 response, and certifications in supply chain management. So don't be scared, I'll quickly run through short slides. And for me, the pharmacist of the 21st century has to be trained and retrained when it comes to acquiring more knowledge. We will not want to just wait on our BPharm or our pharmacy degree, but explore, as just like we have other areas of specialty, there's a supply chain management. And I tell people, supply chain management is such that when it comes to supply chain management of any product at all, look around you, your pen, your biro, your table, your paper, every item has a supply chain management. And when it comes to the supply chain management of medicines, pharmacists must be the forefront, ensuring, yes, we're going to work with others, but ensuring that we play key roles. And so there are a lot of certifications, there are a lot of more knowledge that we have to acquire. We don't want people that are in that narrow space of supply chain management to say that, oh, they are the professionals. We must add to our own knowledge to ensure that we get it right. At the end of this discourse, I'll just mention some of the certifications we may just be looking at. So as we have heard from the lead speaker, when we talk about supply chain management, it encompasses so many activities, the planning, the management, sourcing, procurement, involving the coordination, and then working with partners, suppliers, intermediaries, third-party logistic agents, and what have you. But when you look at logistics management, is looking at that flow, ensuring that, looking at from the origin of the product, right from the origin to when the customer is satisfied. You look at the logistics cycles from product selection, quantification, inventory management, serving your customers. And, central to all these points is the LMIs. I'm going to talk more, about LMIs as we go on. And so one of what I would like to talk about is the supply chain governance when it comes to hospital, pharmacy, and administrative. Before 2012, yes, we had a lot of supply chain activities going on in hospitals, in the ministry, and all that. But in 2012, the National Product Supply Chain Management Program was established under the Department of Food and Drug Services of the Federal Ministry of Health. And by 2024, at the National Council on Health, they agreed and the consensus was reached that in the 2036 plus 1 states of the Federation, there must be the Logistics Management Coordinating Unit. So these are terms I want everyone to be acquainted with. It's the NPSCMP, National Product Supply Chain Management. That is the body in the Federal Ministry of Health that governs supply chain management when it comes to public health and the hospitals and government public health practice. And then in all states of the Federation, we have the Logistics Management Coordinating Unit, coordinating supply chain management, public health. And now the focus now is to integrate both public health commodities and the essential medicines together. So coordinating all that. And then we also have the procurement and supply chain technical working groups, in this in each state of the Federation. So I'm very happy. The last speaker talked about policies and SOPs and documents and all that. And I'm going to present this also to us and all this under governance. So the NPSMP was able to roll out all this, the policies. So we have a national supply chain policy 2017. We also have a national quality assurance policy. We have the harmonized standard operating procedures for logistics management of pharmaceuticals and other health care products 2020. But before that 2020 edition, in 2017, 12 standard operating procedures emanated from the supply chain policy, which was revised by this 2020 integrated one. But these individual ones are very, very useful. And so let's acquaint ourselves with all these policies. You never can tell when you will need one of them. So one is supply chain communication coordination framework for public health programs and secondary and tertiary health facilities in Nigeria. Another is Nigeria supply chain guidelines for repositioning of inbound shipments of pharmaceuticals and other healthcare products at the zonal hub, guidelines on the distribution of public health pharmaceuticals and other healthcare products, standard operating procedure for the assessment of warehouses used for the storage of pharmaceuticals and healthcare products. We also have that for allocating of percentages of the value of procurement for in-country supply chain management, provision of information on procurement of donation, of pharmaceuticals and other healthcare products, management and disposal of unusable and expired pharmaceuticals, and procedure also for facilitating custom and other government regulatory agency clearance and other health products. We have that for transfer of pharmaceuticals and other healthcare products, and that for warehousing and inventory control, standard operating procedures. So we have so many of these, and then we let us acquaint ourselves, and that's also regulating and looking at the coordination at the local government areas in Nigeria. So I'll also go to last mile distribution. Someone mentioned last mile distribution of medicines and health commodities. The Logistics Management Coordinating Unit has as one of its mandates.
Your slides are not changing.
Oh.
None of your slides are changing.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Please just give me a few seconds.
Maybe we should use a slideshow. Slideshow. That would.
Okay. It's actually a slideshow. I don't know. Is it changing? Wow.
Yes, I mean, if you do it.
I don't know if it's changing. Can you see? No.
Okay, don't worry. You after the class, we can get the copy,
okay.
we can share with all the participants too, so that they can have better grasp of it.
Okay, but wow, I didn't realize this. I don't know what's coming up. Just give me two minutes, please. 2 minutes.
We cannot hear you from Paul. Maybe your mic is muted.
Yes, so I'll start. I would see if it's not, I'll just continue. Please, can you see my screen?
Yes,
Hello?
we can see the screen. Yeah.
Okay, I think I know what happened. My video was on and I was also sharing. I don't know if that affected that. Okay. So I think you should be able to see now.
We see your screen.
Okay, I don't know if it is changing now.
Yeah, well, if
National
you try to
policy
change.
document.
Okay, great, great. So I had gone through all this. Can you see the new slides? Hello?
It's not changing
No,
now.
it's still the
It's
same.
not
It
changing.
didn't change.
Maybe what we'll just do, just try to just round
All
up
right.
the engagement
Okay.
so that at least
Okay.
the material will share with people, so that people
Great.
will have more time to interact with the documents.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So the LMCU has the Logistics Management Coordinating Unit has as one of its mandates to ensure the continuous availability of commodities at the last mile, and this, is carried out to ensure that health facilities receive their commodities that are when due, and these include the HIV, the malaria, the TB, family planning, and now the essential medicines. And then there's a real-time last mile distribution monitoring to ensure that the train drivers are actually, with trackers on their system, we can track the movement of the commodities to the last mile. So that happens in some of the cases. I mean, once we don't have that, we also do some physical monitoring of some, select facilities to ensure that the distribution happens. So there's also a post-gap distribution analysis carried out to compare what was requested and what we were able to give out at the state level, to health facilities. And this analysis is usually presented at coordination meetings with supply chain implementing partners, at the procurement and supply chain technical working group, and other, fora whereby meaningful inputs can be made to see how the distribution can be made better. So I said LMIS. So Logistic Management Information System is the heart of the logistics cycle. And I'm very happy today, the speakers before me have mentioned the use of information technology to be able to, ensure that, we get visibility to what happens. So what we have is, I really wish you could see this, maybe you'll see it afterwards. The LMIS is the system of records and reports, whether paper-based or electronic, to aggregate and analyze and display data at all levels of the logistics system. And so where we're going is ensuring that the use of electronic systems is done real time. Right now, we have Nigeria Health LMIS, where we have end-to-end visibility across, and that happens not across all the 36+1 states of the country. Across programs, you have end-to-end visibility on stock status, at least once in 2 months. For every state, for example, in Lagos, we are desirous to have this real time, and we're able to pilot the last mile distribution and real-time visibility of stock status across public health facilities in Alimosho local government area in 2019. And we had very good results using a mobile app and using an ODK system. And it was very successful. We had about 83% reporting rate on a daily basis. And the abstract from this study has been presented at the Global Digital Development Summit in Geneva in 2019. It was also presented at South Africa in 2019 at the Global Health Supply Chain Summit. So, and right now, in our supply chain plan for the state, the work plan, 2-year work plan for the state, we're looking at having this scaled up, across the state. So once you get the slide to see the dashboards that we have from the National Health LMIS system, we have, all this. And we've been able to, in terms of supply chain projects, we've been able to partner in Lagos with the Africa Resource Center for Excellence in Supply Chain Management. And we've been able to carry out capstone projects and case studies, one of which I've mentioned. And pharmacists are doing very well, These projects span across the warehouse, data analysis, strategic projects, even in COVID-19, and also improving the efficiency of forecasting of family planning, commodities, visibility into stock status that I've mentioned, and the use of technology. So pharmacists have also been involved in the COVID-19 response in different pillars, the logistics pillar, case management pillar, research pillar, and in the logistics pillar of the EOC, the Emergency Operations Command, there were 3 sub-pillars: warehousing and distribution, data management, and the fleet management sub-pillars. And pharmacists did so well, having different achievements. Some of which were that we were able to develop the supply chain strategy. We developed the data management plan, the LMIS for daily, stock status dashboard. Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we are hearing you. It's like there's an intrusion.
Okay, so the development of the emergency procurement process, and also a supply chain management standard operating procedure. So certifications that pharmacists can also get includes that of the certified supply chain analysts, that of from MIT. There's so many certifications, and really, if we partner with the Africa Resource Center, they have a center of excellence platform where different applications are being rolled out. You can link up with me, afterwards, for more information on that. So these are basically, so I just have pictures and all that to show, what we have been doing so far. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. Please let us send in our applause on the platform. Let's clap for her. I mean, this wonderful exposition, and we can all see that the place of a pharmacist in supply chain management in our public sector is a big opportunity. And from what is already taking place in that space, pharmacists need to brace up. So some of us can begin to look that direction of getting certification in the aspect of supply chain management. And I think this is a very good eye-opening opportunity for all of us. So I want to appreciate every one of us and all our speakers this night. It has been a great encounter. And I know many people are already boiling with questions. I can see 2 people have raised up their hands in the chat, they have raised up their hand, and we'll be taking their question quickly. And at this juncture, I want to also appreciate many people that have just joined us. I know the earlier on we have the coordinator, that's the pharmacist Azuka Okeke, which is the CEO, African Resource Center for Excellence in Supply Chain. She joined us earlier on. We appreciate her, and every other people that joined in this engagement. So it is now time for questions, because I know so much has been placed before us this night, and I know very well many of us are itchy to know what are the steps and what are the challenges and how it can be ameliorated based on what we have had. So I'm going to be going to the questions now. I have a pharmacist, Olabisi Okewale. Your question, can you just unmute and ask your question at this time? Olabisi Okewale. And the other people, you can also put your question in the chat room so that our speakers can actually do justice to some of those questions as we are trying to round up in another 10 minutes. Okay, maybe she just connected and left it there. Okay, Joseph Ali, you raised your hand. Or that these are just by mistakes? Okay. Well, do we have questions to ask our panelists this evening? If you have any question, I'm going through the chat room now. I've not seen a question. I will see a lot of kudos and appreciation to the speakers. Okay. Well, if we don't have questions, Dr. Solomon, do you have you have some few words to round up this session as we close this night?
Well, I think it has been a very interesting and engaging night for me. And I think I shared the same sentiment with other speakers and probably the attendees in this conference. What I will just conclude by saying is that things are changing so rapidly, and traditional systems and practices that we adopted or used to manage pharmacy in different categories in the last decade definitely can't take us to the next 5 years. So we need to get down to the table, collaborate, and see where the gaps are that we can fill or then close the gap, and then move our profession forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Solomon, and that was a very good rounding words from you. I go to Pharmacist Ehime.
Okay, thank you. What is clear among all the speakers, the panelists, is that technology has a big role to play in all this. So if you have to have, if we're going to have a functional supply chain, technology is key. There are pockets of technology here and there, but we actually look forward to a situation where we have a very robust technology that everybody can use. I know there's some efforts being made by P2P. That's effort in the right direction. Sometimes I want to draw inspirations and learnings from advanced countries where, you probably don't have more than 2 or 3 technologies that people just get into, and you coordinate and collaborate. So for me, technology is key. If you're going to have a very functional supply chain in pharmaceutical supply chain in Nigeria, that will ensure product visibility, that we'll be able to link up with third-party logistics company, for you people to know, to be able to track and trace products, for you people to do returns and returns and reverse logistics, then we must have a very robust technology. Right now, some of the technology we use in these countries are not even pharmacy-specific technologies. They are just technologies we buy off the shelf. So whoever is going to invest in that space, whoever has the capacity and ability to invest in that space is going to make so much inroads. Also, very importantly, we need wholesalers, because I play in the retail space, we need wholesalers that have capacity. Now, whether there's going to be mergers and acquisitions or whatever it is, but we need wholesalers that have capacity, they have funding that can carry a huge amount of stock for the retailer. So those for me are the parting words. And also most importantly is that for those of us that play in the retail space, please, honoring financial commitments, paying for your goods carried is very key. If we don't pay, if we don't system don't get funded, then this system can never be structured. We will never have a functional pharmaceutical supply chain. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for those parting words. I think somebody raised his hand in the chat, for raise his hand now. That's Maden Gafaro, Pharmacist Maden Gafaro. You can unmute and you can ask your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, and I give kudos to the presenters. You have really hit the nails on the head, and the points that are raised, are quite germane. Now, Pharmacist Chris Amen, actually mentioned in his closing remark, what has been on my mind, that for us to achieve this robust supply chain management, we need to use IT, and but now my question is this, who should take responsibility in building this IT? Is it the practitioners or the regulators? Or you should just be any businessman that see an opportunity in developing this robust IT, so that every player will just plug into it. So who should lead that responsibility of building this? Because I remember there was a time PSN took the took the role of developing this IT through Farm IT. But at the end of the day, you know, the thing just slow down. You know, ACPN2 is trying, you know, to use P2P. You know, I am aware PDAN is also thinking of doing something. So who should take responsibility of these things so that by the time it is built, every player will just plug into it. And, you know, we will now, I mean, all these problems will be eliminated or at least reduced to BRS minimum. Thank you.
Okay, if you ask me to answer that question, I'll say it's not the function of the regulators. I think it has to, the industry has to, the practitioners have to come together and decide. Even the practitioners themselves cannot do it. They have to look for a third party to build that solution. So it's a question of the practitioners coming together to look for a third party to build that solution, or a businessman that build a solution and sell it to the practitioners. That's the way it's going to work. It's not going to be regulators. In fact, I don't know whether here when I was discussing about my research findings, what the regulators said to me clearly that they don't get involved in commercial dealings between wholesalers and retailers. They don't get involved. They will regulate products and practices. Whatever commercial terms you have, they are not involved. And building technology is more, for me, it's a commercial term. It's a commercial thing. So for me, the practitioners can come together and look for someone to build a solution for them, or somebody that has they have the capacity can build a software and try to sell it to the industry. That's my
Let me just add a little to what Chris has just mentioned. Coincidentally, I happen to know those who are behind P2P. And it's on record that the first third-party inventory management system was built by that company. We bought the solution in 2000 and used it, you know, in MDS logistics to manage multi-client interface in terms of outsourced logistics. By the time I was leaving MBS in 2018, January, as a CEO, we had not less than 80 customers from the likes of the Guinness of this world, Pharmacists, you know, all the telecoms, the big, you know, big four, and all of them, you know. So again, in going into the pharma space in terms of pharma logistics, we had both legs in the private and the public sector. We had a lot of contracts with GSI, USAID, and of course, Kimonis later on. And in the private space, we had Pfizer, GSK, all the who is who in the private sector. So they evolved and built solutions for us then. And so when I saw that they had P2P, of course, it was so natural. ACPN have at least 1,000 members, more than 1,000 members. But beyond this, it's a solution that I have seen integrates and goes across all the channel players. So for me, I don't think it's just like Facebook. Somebody will ask who is, if not that we will not know who is the owner of Facebook. We just heard about the platform, and we all walked into the space and we have been communicating. I think it's just for us to give it a try and see. It's a commercial, it's a third party, but the commercial terms are little or nothing from what I have experienced. And I think for 1,000 plus all over the country to show faith in that same solution, you know, I can tell that it's easier to do things like that than to reinvent, you know, the wheel of progress than any other that every other person may want to do, like the wholesaler or PDAN. So that's my own position. I know about the solution. I know about the one that we used for 22 years before, you know, I left the system. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much for those responses. I have Pharmacist Claire in the room also trying to ask a question. Over to you, Pharmacist Claire.
Good evening, my colleagues. Thank you very much for the invitation to this very informative session and excellent presentations by all of our speakers today. Thank you for putting this together. I've actually typed up 3 questions and I'll make them quick. First, to the last speaker, Pharmacist Margaret Adedapo, please can you refer us to any websites where we can download some of the policies and the SOPs so that we can review these and ensure that we have good distribution practices by reading the policies. There's no use of having the policies without us being able to read them. 2, there's a lot of talk about this integration of databases and systems, But how does this forum ensure that we walk the talk? There's a lot of talking going on and not enough walking. If they have a system in place that is working, why don't we buy into somebody else's idea and ensure that we have good distribution practices within the pharmaceutical area? And this will also reduce the exposure to open drug markets, because obviously those gentlemen or ladies in the market would not be subscribing to this system. And that will also be sure that all our retail pharmacies are buying from legitimate sources, again, helping to reduce faking, adulteration, and substandard drugs. And my third question really is on the conversation that Chris mentioned. Seems to be that the mega distributors or wholesalers are the two that you mentioned, I won't mention them again, are foreign-based companies. And we have one company who, we have the former MD on the call. What do we do to be able to have a homegrown Nigerian wholesale company? We're overdue for this company. My 30 years of practicing pharmacy, we've been talking about this, and we still have the three big distributors being foreign-based or foreign owners. It's high time we get this and do this ourselves. Even if it is merging the various wholesalers or floating a new company to which we all buy shares and understand that this is for the collective good and sustainability of our and health of quality distribution in Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that comment. In the course of my interaction with some of the wholesalers, and I'm floating the idea, will you be willing to go into some form of mergers and acquisitions to become big wholesaler? You know, from their body language, you see that a lot of them are family-owned businesses. So that idea for them, where if you want to float on that company, fine. But for them to merge their existing company with another one to form a bigger company, the body language didn't suggest they want to do that. And truly speaking, and from the retail point of view, one of the biggest challenges retailers face is that no single wholesaler currently, no single one can give you more than 20 to 30% what you need. So you eventually engage in what they call purchasing tourism. Keep hopping from one wholesaler to another one, to another one, to another one, until you are tired, and eventually you don't get what you need. And so, because a lot of them don't have the capacity, they don't have the wherewithal to carry huge stock, you know. And so the issue of mergers and acquisitions or investing in a big one, I don't know. I know, is it PCN that tried the Oracle? But I think that one's still works. But we must have an indigenous, or even if it's not indigenous, we must have some other big players in the mode of Ascendant Laborers, in the mode of WWCV, to be able to have people that have the capacity that can supply retailers across the length and breadth of this country. Now, how that is going to be done, I don't know. Issue of mergers and acquisition among the several wholesalers that we have, it's a very consensus issue. A lot of them don't think they want to do it. But again, my own quarrel with regulatory agencies is that why are you still licensing small wholesalers all over the whole place? If you want to regulate you want to structure the pharmaceutical supply chain, why don't you look for people that have the capacity? So all I need to present to be registered as a wholesaler, I present a 70 square meter space. You don't even know me if I have the capacity, if I have the funds. Wholesale requires funding. It requires huge capital. I don't think there's a provision in the requirement in setting up a wholesale unit. There's no requirement to say, okay, what capital do you have? And so that's a problem. So somebody set up a wholesale unit, very few things, and you go there, you don't see a lot of things to buy. That is not wholesale. Wholesale should be strong. I mean, in the US, Amerisource, Virgin, Cardinal, Marchese, 90% of the stock distributed in the US are by those three companies. Straight. If you are a retailer in the US and you send your requisition to Amerisource, chances are you're going to get maybe 80 to 90% of what you want. But it doesn't happen here. So that's for us to structure this pharmaceutical supply chain, we must have those mega wholesalers. They must exist. Otherwise, we will just keep contending with what we have currently. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
Okay. Pharmacist Adedapo, I mean, there's a request for the website for some of these policies. Can you point us to those, if there's any?
Yes, so thank you very much, Pharmacist Clary. I'm going to type in the chat box the link or the website where you can get this. Thank you.
Alternatively, can you just do a slide in addition to what you presented so that it could also be documented in that slide on that presentation? So that at least when we send it out, more people can access it after now.
Oh, okay, all right. I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, I think, well, Joseph Ali, do you want to ask a question? Okay, maybe 1 minute. Let's just go for a short interlude, and as I welcome pharmacist Oladapo Richard, as he's going to give us a short.
One of the major pain points for pharmaceutical production is the distribution system for the end products of their engagement. An efficient distribution system relies on adequate data exchange, flexibility, cost effectiveness, cost saving and responsive operations. With P2P, a pharmaceutical supply chain coordination platform, your silo systems can connect the mainstream distribution network across the supply chain participants. It is designed in line with National Drug Distribution Guideline of the Federal Ministry of Health, thereby bringing efficiency and real-time information exchange among the players. Manufacturers, importers, distributors, hospitals, community pharmacists and logistic organizations are domiciled on a single platform by removing the bottlenecks, enhancing productivity and taking your products to the target markets. You can give your business the 21st century enhancement now by joining over 1,000 participants already on board. Connecting this industry system for your profitability, kindly visit www.famart.ng. For more inquiries, call us now 090326222336.
Well, I call on pharmacist Oladapo Richard as he takes the vote of thanks and as we round up this session this night. Pharmacist Oladapo, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending this session. I'm sure we must all admit that it's been an enlightening session, and it has opened our eyes to different things we need to know about the supply chain in distribution in Nigeria. I'd like to thank our presenters. From all the 4 presenters, you have done exceedingly well. From the main speaker, that's Dr. Solomon Aigbava, my pharmacist Chris Ehime, pharmacist Samson Omata, and the lady in the house, pharmacist Margaret Adedapo. We are grateful for your presentations. And then I want to thank all the participants, all those who have attended, our secretary for PSN, pharmacist Maden Gafa Olanrewaju. You can see pharmacist Osaritin Jayola in the group. Thank you for coming. Pharmacist James Yola of PSN, I can see you. Thank you for attending. And there is one remark I'd like to make on the track and trace. I'm in industry, and I can inform us that there's a regulation undergoing gazetting from NAFDAC on this track and trace. Although there's a pilot scale that's going on in some companies to see the workability, because the process is a bit expensive, and then it will involve a lot of things for the companies. So there's a guideline that is coming out, and time frame given to the companies to comply, especially those that are manufacturing locally. So as we go on, I think we should all have thoughts about what has been brought up, all the questions that have been raised, and all the solutions that have been provided, like the issue of wholesalers. I think our regulators are in the house. The PCN, especially, that licenses the wholesalers. I think Joseph Ali, I'm saying, is the state officer for Ogun State, and then James Yola is another state officer. Maybe you should be able to tell the registrar and bring what we have discussed tonight about it as to what they can do to strengthen that particular area. So with this, like I said, I thank everybody, and especially our board members who are present, our chairman, Pharmacist Victor Ajibade, Pharmacist Foluke Akiniraye, Pharmacist Mrs. Medo, and everyone that is on this call. Thank you, and God bless us. Good night.
Amen.
Good night,
God bless
everybody.
you.
We
God
appreciate
bless
you all.
Nigeria.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Have a wonderful night and
Thank you, everybody.
holiday tomorrow.
Thank you.
Wonderful night, everybody. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you very much.
For those,
Bye.
for those in government work.
Thank you.
For those
Thank
in
you.
government
Bye.
work.
Bye.
For today's
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you.
presentation.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Stay blessed. Yeah. Bye.
Pharmacy Margaret.
Yes, well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
LMP
Thank you
coordinator
very much.
Lagos.
Nice seeing you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, LMP coordinator Lagos.
From Zira. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
All the way from
everyone, and good
all the way
night,
from
everyone.
Adamawa. Thank you.
Yes.